Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome. Oh,
That's good energy.
It's toasty in here already.
That is a little.
So, welcome to Temple Israel. We're so glad. Ooh, those are loud microphones tonight. My goodness. Okay. We're so glad you could be here with us tonight as we celebrate Shabbat together. Taking that one off because it's super loud. So, we're going to welcome each other in on this really beautiful, amazing night by singing a little bit about what a beautiful, amazing night it is. So, if you'll join us on page 10, we're going to start with Maya Fehayom. Maya Fehayom, Shabbat Shalom, Maya Fehayom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Maya Fehayom, Maya Fehayom, Shabbat Shalom, Maya Fehayom, Shabbat Shalom. Beautiful. So we're going to begin our services tonight by doing those rituals that often we would do if we were sitting at our Shabbat tables at home together. But since we're here instead of at home, we get this opportunity to do them all as one community. And so to help us with those blessings, with our candles and our kiddush and our motzi, I am going to invite some members of our amazing Bat Mitzvah family who are going to help us with that. So if I can invite Galit, Rachel, Jacob, and Tony to come and help us with our blessings. So our candle blessings, for those of you who wish to follow along, can be found on page 2. So start if you want to use the...
זה הניסיון הכי גדול. זה הניסיון.
This is an ongoing joke, by the way, that usually only teenagers can use the lighter.
I'm going to do it again. Can I help? Yes. You're going to have to do it, bro.
I'd like to lift our Kiddush cup there.
ברוך אתה ה' אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי ורפואה.
Amen.
We have some challah under there if you'd like. Amen.
Amen. Oh. כל הכבוד.
So we'll continue on. On page 10, we'll do another Kabbalat Shabbat song. This one is Yedid Nefesh. And for those of you who've been coming for a while, you know this is the middle part where you say Yalai. So Lisa and Jay in the back, they know what they're doing. They will sing loudly for us, but everyone else, you're welcome to join in for any part you know. It's on page 10. Yedid Nefesh HaRachman, Yedid Nefesh HaRachman, Meshochav Decha, Eretz Onecha, Eretz Onecha, Yedadadadadai, Eretz Onecha. All right, let's wait. Stop just for a second. Okay, so your part, Israelis who know it, you guys get to sing along. But if you don't know it, your part is going to be in the middle. It's going to go, yeah, lie. All right, you ready? We're going to try that. Yeah, lie. Beautiful. Okay, we got this. All right, let's try it one more time. Yedi nefesh HaRachman, Yedi nefesh HaRachman, Meshochav Decha, Eretz Onecha, Meshochav Decha, Yadai, Eretz Onecha. Beautiful. Next parts. Yarutz Avdecha, Kemo Ayah, Yishtachave Lalai, Yalai, Emul Hadracha. Beautiful. Let's do it one more time. Back to Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh HaRachman, Yedid Nefesh HaRachman, Meshochav Decha, Eretz Onecha, Meshochav Decha, Yadadadadai, Eretz Onecha. Beautiful. So every time when we come together, we think about what makes Shabbat a special time, what makes it different from the rest of the week. And there's a teaching that says that every time we come and we celebrate Shabbat together, that it's as if angels are being welcomed into our midst. And so there's a song that's traditionally sung at the Shabbat table, but that we sing here on page 24, that welcomes these angels into our midst, and we say the words Shalom Aleichem to them. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boechem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You guys sound amazing. I don't know if it is the acoustics in this place or what, but it sounds good. So we are ready, I think, to call each other to worship. So if you will, I'm going to ask you to please rise on page 28, and you'll join us in the words of the Baruch Hu. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. On page 31 at the bottom.
This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over?
Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. And we read responsively on the bottom of 33, wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And we join in the watchword of our people, the words of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. And 39, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught forever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. sing Mi Chamocha, a song praising God for having given us freedom. But in the evenings, we always follow it by thanking God for having created a Sukkot Shalom, a sukkah that protects us wherever it is we go. So tonight on 42, we're just going to do the one line of this, which you can find, let's see, in the Hebrew, it is the third line down. But you may have heard this one before. It's just a few words. Ufros Aleinu. Ufros Aleinu. Sukkot. Sukkot. Shlomecha. Try it with us. Ufros Aleinu. Sukkot. Sukkot. Shlomecha. Ya lai la lai. Ya lai la lai. Ya lai la lai la lai la lai. Ya lai la lai. Ya lai la lai. Ya lai la lai la lai. On page 45 it reads, "We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time." And we rise together on page 46 in the words of Tefillah. Adonai sefata tiftach ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevig Ula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Ba'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Mechakel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'ofech olim, Umatzir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umido melech, Melech memit umechayei, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lechayot hakom, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom ya'alucha selam. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. We invite you to be seated, and we read responsively on 55 in the English.
Disturb us, Adonai. Ruffle us from our complacency. Make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans.
Shock us, Adonai. Deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred.
Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears.
Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality.
Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred up and spurred to action.
Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. We'll turn now to a prayer for peace. We turn on page 60, and when we sing the words of Shalom Rav, we ask God to spread peace over us, over all of Israel, over all those we love. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Ki ata u'melech Adon L'chol Shalom. Ki ata u'melech Adon L'chol Shalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. לטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. So we take a few moments now and we divert from the usual order of our Siddur, and we turn to this prayer that we do every time really we're together. And this has become a minhag, a custom in our congregation and so many Reform congregations, because often when we come together in prayer, we may be thinking of celebrations, we may be just here to experience Shabbat, but a lot of the time we come because there's someone in our families or a circle of friends who is in need of healing. So if there's someone who you're thinking of at this time who could use our prayers and who would appreciate knowing that their names were shared in this space, I would invite you to share them at this time. Tonight of Dave. We're thinking of Andy watching from home, of Lisi Weinstein and Arlene Alper, thinking of all of them and thinking of those of us who are in need of healing prayers. On page 253, we join in a Mishaberach. Help say shalom aleinu. Ve'yakol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'yakol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. So tomorrow morning, Miss Talia Paremba is going to read from the Torah for us. And it's a pretty big deal to read from the Torah. Here at Temple Israel, this tends to be an honor that really we just give to our B'nai Mitzvah students. But there are other times of the year where people are able to read or to chant Torah. And for those of you who've read or chanted Torah before, you know it's a big deal. It's a big honor. You're not supposed to say no if someone asks you and you know how to do it. And along with having the opportunity to read or chant Torah, you have to say the blessings over it. You have to be able to say it in a way that is loud and clear and slow so that everyone can understand what you're saying. And those customs are true anywhere you go, any time of year, except for this particular parsha, which I didn't tell you in advance. You're still going to do a great job anyway. But this particular parsha is a little bit different. You see, in this Torah portion, and it's actually later than the section that Talia is going to read, so she doesn't have to worry about it. But in this particular parsha, there is a section of it that is known, in English we say that it's a rebuke. And what it really is it is this long list of everything that will happen to the people if they do not follow God's laws. And let me tell you, this is not a nice list. I mean, it is really like a terrible list of all sorts of awful things that will happen to you if you don't follow the mitzvot. And so because of this, there are all of these different customs that we see in different congregations all over the world that have arisen for this Torah portion. And they differ from congregation to congregation, but in some Torah portions, for instance, because no one really wants to do this, they will make the rabbis actually read this Torah portion. In some congregations, they will choose someone who is a shlemazel, right? They'll choose someone who's a shlemazel who like always has bad luck, because if you were to read this Torah portion and something bad should happen to you, you want to say, oh, well, it's because they were such a shlemazel and not because of the bad luck of reading this parsha. But still, people get very nervous about it, and so because of that, there are communities that will just skip this parsha entirely. There are other communities that will just not say the brachot, so they won't say the blessings. And there are some traditions, and these are really the most common ones, that say that when you read this particular part of the Torah portion, that while in other times you might sort of separate a Torah portion into different aliyot, into different sections, that when you're reading this section that has that rebuke, that long list of terrible things that are going to happen to you, you have to read it all in one section, all in one aliyah. You're supposed to read it very, very quickly, but you're also supposed to whisper it. So if there's a line that says something good, like a good thing will happen to you, you'll say it like this and you'll chant it very nicely. But then when you get to the next part, you're going to whisper it because no one wants to hear the bad things. So the question is, why would all of these different traditions have arisen just about this Torah portion? And while there's a lot of different answers that we could come up with, it seems that the most apparent one is the idea that people are worried that if you are the one who is reading this section, that these bad things may befall you. And it reminded me, some of you, maybe your grandparents or your great-grandparents did this, but if you ever saw the Neil Simon play, not Biloxi Blues, but what's the other one? Brighton Beach Memoirs. If you ever saw Brighton Beach Memoirs, there's this great scene where Jerome is talking about what happens when someone in their family gets sick, and you would say, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, but they have dysentery. mean, they didn't say dysentery, that's like an organ trail sort of disease, but you get the point. You would whisper whatever the terrible thing was because there was this sense that it might happen to you. Now, I just want to make it clear, in case you're wondering, this is a bogomisa. So a bogomisa is like a Yiddish for saying that it's an old wives' tale. Nothing bad will happen to you if you read this long list. But I think that we are missing something if we follow any of these traditions. You see, there's a reason that we read this parsha so close to the High Holy Days. Now, I know all of you are getting very excited for Rosh Hashanah, and it's a wonderful time, and we're with family and friends, and we wear our nicest clothes, and we have our big celebratory meals. But every year I try to remind you that is not what Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are all about, even though it's very nice, and you should come and wear your clothes and have your nice meals. But this time of year is actually about thinking about our actions and their consequences. And so when we have a parsha like this one that says very loudly, if you do not behave in good ways, bad things will happen to you, we should not just whisper it. This is the kind of thing that we need to be very aware of. Because while we all know that sometimes bad things, terrible things happen to people who don't deserve it, we also know that there are times where our actions can bring about negative things in our lives. And this time of year is supposed to really sort of wake us up and kind of slap us in the face to make sure that we are thinking about it. And I worry that so often when we come here for the holy days, we get so caught up in all of the excitement that we forget that lesson. And so this parsha is here to remind us. It says that our Judaism, our tradition, does believe that our actions have consequences. And that if we are able to live in good and righteous ways, the ways that God intended, that maybe, just maybe, those good things will come our way. Now, I know, just by looking out in this room, that many of us have different ideas about who and what God is. And it may very well be that in your theology and your understanding of God, that you don't necessarily believe that there is a God up there who's opening up God's big giant book and writing our names in it and looking at who's been naughty and who's been nice. I understand that that is challenging for a whole lot of us. But maybe, just maybe this year, we can think about the idea that no matter what you think God is doing in the heavens above, that we should know, for the sake of our own lives and for the sake of our community, that our actions do have consequences. So let's not whisper. Let's say it out loud, and let's be able to be proud of our actions, both in the year that has passed and in the new year to come. Shabbat Shalom. So we're going to invite you now, if you will, to please rise. And we're going to turn all the way back to 282. On the bottom of the page. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tzeit gedula liyotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'artzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo samachakenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים בימה ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים הוא אלוהינו אינו עמד מלכנו אפס זולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת עינו ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. On page 289.
The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbos candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. But soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our lives are full. But as night follows day, the candle of life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more, and no more are seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a mere memory, slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life.
This has been a difficult week for our community, and I know we have friends watching from home, because at this time we recall with love the names of those taken from us in recent days, and our hearts go out to their families and friends in sympathy as we recall their names. Susan Fadum, Janice Gitt, Judy Kaplan, Bob Levy, Lorraine Rosenberg, Burton Ellis Schickman, Bruce Schneider. And we now recall the names of those, the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat, and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation or on the Wall of Honor for a perpetual memorial. Milton Aronson, Sigmund Baer, Ida Baumgarten, Marcus A. Brown, Lena Carafile, Dr. Benjamin Halpern Cohen, Max E. Kornick, Rosella Bender-Cutter, Laurie Bryn Feldman, Richard Allen Fisher, Bobby Ann Fox, Isaac Frank, Leo Charles Fuller, Harry S. Goldberg, Larry Goldfarb, Private Fred Golding, who died in the service of our country, Ida Lazarus Greenwald, Rose Greger, Charity Roberts Kalish, Benjamin Kessel, Bela Kolodner, Lena Kohlenbrenner, Bobby Koslow, Evelyn Lacube, Second Lieutenant Robert Leventhal, who died in the service of our country, Ida Lipkovsky, Anna Marcus, Becky Marples, Albert Melman, Abraham Miller, Jesse Meyer, Tessie Orchard, Samuel Pasternak, Gussie Perlmutter, Babette Perlstein, Mamie Rosenblatt, Arthur Rosenfeld, Leona Sachs, Flora Scallett, Dorothy Shermer, Pauline Berliner Schiller, Sandra Ellen Schultz, Hazel Meyer Schweig, Marvin Seidler, Ben Silverman, Adeline Gill Simon, Minnie Simon, Sally Simon, Joanne Glazer Steinbaum, Walter Weinstein, May Tash Weiss, Paul Richard Wing, Alice Richter Winston, Estelle Buck-Wishnoff, Sadie Wolfert, Stephen Blake Wolfson, and Beatrice Young. So those names and the names we keep in our hearts, we join together in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, if it is your custom, on page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divrach hiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyomechon, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיים, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. So my friends, a few last announcements before we send you on your way. Tomorrow is when we honor Slichot. We are doing something a little bit different this year. We are doing sort of a Slichot family event, which is tomorrow morning, prior to Talia's bat mitzvah. So if you would like to join us for that, our educators are going to be up on the upper playground and they are going to be leading that one. And because it's Slichot, that does of course mean the high holy days are just around the corner. Please remember, everyone is welcome. We would love to have you here, but if you are attending, we hope that you will just sign up your little name on the internet so that we know you're coming and we can prepare for you. Anything else we need to tell people? Sunday school this weekend. We'll see you guys there. It's going to be great. Isaiah's off for this week. You can come back next time. So we're going to do one last song just to close us off with a little bit of joy. We're going to sing Psalm 150 and just be able to raise our voices and say hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Kol hanshama, kol hanshama, te'alaya, hallelujah, hallelujah, kol hanshama, te'alaya, hallelujah, hallelujah. Shabbat shalom, everyone.